Hi, I'm Matt Shea, the Chief Technology Officer of Vernon Township School District. I'm here today to talk about our one-to-one Chromebook initiative, which we started 3 years ago at Vernon Township School District. Last year, we had Chromebooks for every student in grades 4 through 9, and this year we decided to take the leap, so we added on 700 more Chromebooks at our high school. So this year, we will be grades 4 through 12 one-to-one with Chromebooks. We have a couple changes this year, so let's go ahead and take a look and hear about some of those changes.
So this particular bit of information really is kind of geared more for Vernon Township High School, in case you are watching this. Some of it applies to the other buildings, but really some of this is going to be very specific to what's happening at the high school. In this presentation, most of it, actually if not all of it, I shared with all the students actually this morning on September 11th during 4 different assemblies, one for each grade. And so the students should be aware of what our expectations are, accountability, the devices themselves, etc., etc. So let's go through some of this. First, it's a very interesting year at the high school. We have students that are in 9th grade that the 2013-2014 school year were the first students to begin with devices in our district. They started with Lenovo laptops the first year, and then we switched over to Chromebooks when they entered 6th grade. They used them all 7th and 8th grade, so they come to 9th grade entering their 5th year of using devices. 10th grade is their 3rd year of using Chromebooks. They started in 8th grade, had them last year in Freshman Academy. And then 11th and 12th grade, the students might have seen Chromebooks in the library or maybe park or special instances, but really have not had access to Chromebooks other than that. So for the 11th and 12th graders, it's going to be very new this year, and then certainly for those teachers, we've been doing lots of professional development. But so it's just a very dynamic year this year at the high school, that we have some very veteran students that are very tech savvy, and some students that have not necessarily seen Chromebooks as much. We had to pick somewhere to start. This was actually decided before I ever even got here in that 13-14 school year, who would start with the devices. We just decided to catch up this year to make sure we had the whole high school covered, because we were starting to get worried about students entering the workforce, students going to 4-year college, 2-year college, that they might not necessarily have as many opportunities to learn with technology as our younger students have had. So we wanted to catch up to that this year, which is kind of why we really have focused on the high school for this year, the 17-18 school year. For the high school, why go one-to-one? I mean, it's important that students learn technology skills, especially for those 80% of students that are going on to some form of higher education, whether it's an associate's degree, bachelor's degree, that they get used to learning management systems like Schoology and Blackboard and Canvas, as most colleges, nearly all of them, use some sort of online management system. So we want to make sure our students are familiar with that, comfortable with that, so when they enter their first semester, it's one less thing for them to worry about. For our students entering careers right away, I mean, nearly every career, one way or another, interfaces with technology. Now, to what degree is kind of dependent on what industry, but we want to make sure that students are getting every opportunity they can. Also, with Chromebooks and some of the tools we've chosen, like Google Suite, Schoology, learning doesn't stop when the kids leave our school. It doesn't stop, it doesn't only happen inside our 4 walls. Students can learn on demand anywhere they are, as long as they have internet, and in some cases, even if they don't have internet. That was an important thing for our students. So it's ultimately, the bottom line is this last part here, to provide learning opportunities for our students. We have a new website, vtsd.com/tech, has a lot of this information, a lot of these policies, this information I'm sharing with you. Parent resources, frequently asked questions. We've been working on this all summer. Other districts had something similar, and we thought, boy, that's a really great way to get the information to parents or students as they want to see it. So again, vtsd.com/tech. You can find a lot of what I'm about to tell you in there, or if you're looking for more detailed information, you can also find it there as well. Now, what's different at the high school, we knew at some point we'd want to have the students have the opportunity to bring them home to continue to do work, or if students didn't have devices at home, or maybe there's only one device at home and you might have 3 children. We put out a survey. This is about a year and a half ago. We had about 400 parents reply, and you can see the statistics here. So for now, again, we're talking about only the high school. This is not happening anywhere else in our district right now, even though we have devices all the way down to 4th grade. They're going to stay in carts in those buildings. But at the high school, a lot of the feedback was parents, yes, wanted the devices to come home. So we took that feedback, and because of some logistics here and what we thought the students were ready for, we've decided that yes, the devices will go home with students, again, at VTHS only. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean the students must take them home. If the students already have another device at home, if you, the parent, or even the student are not comfortable with them going back and forth, we totally understand that, and certainly the kids can leave them here. We're going to have carts available all throughout the building. Right now we have them in the lower library. We're looking at other strategic places to put them. So students can leave their devices overnight, they'll get charged, they'll come back in the morning, and they'll pick up their Chromebooks. So, again, if you, the parent, are uncomfortable with the accountability, if the student is uncomfortable, if there's just not a need to bring them back and forth, you do not have to do that. Now, our students, when they've received these Chromebooks, we have put new cases on them. Some districts make students pay for cases, they make them get their own cases. We wanted to supply the cases. We've done a lot of research, especially with our freshman academy teachers from last year. We tried like 10 different cases to put them in a nice secure case. So in case the student drops them, it gets bumped off a desk and falls. We're very confident in these cases. With that said, I explained to the students how they need to remain in these cases. If for some reason a kid takes them out of the case, loses the case, we're going to bill them for another one. The first one is definitely free. They're very difficult to get off, actually. However, I warn the students, please don't take them out of these cases. They need to stay in the cases. For these students, we're trying to help train them to be young adults and learn what adulting looks like, and accountability. And so after much discussion with the Board of Ed and Technology Committee and the Freshman Academy teachers, we've come up with some of these policies to make sure that students feel accountable. We don't want to burden them too much. However, there's some things they really need to be accountable for. And first of all for this is making sure they bring their device to class. Last year we had some students that they would leave it in their locker, they would leave it in some other class, so they'd come to class unprepared. Now the teacher would have to change their lesson on the fly to be able to deal with students that didn't have a device. So I made it very clear to the students they need to bring the device. Even if they are taking it home, it needs to come back from home. It needs to be here in the classroom. There's a chance if they don't bring it to class, if they're not prepared, that they could possibly lose points for that. Also, charging their device, whether they take it home, and we gave every student a charger today as they picked them up, or if they leave it here at school and charge it in the carts, they're responsible for taking care and charging the device. The charge should go 6 to 8 hours, maybe even longer, but they need to be charged. If the student gets to period 2 and their device dies, that's a problem on them. They should have been aware. We're not going to allow them in class to string spaghetti wires all over the floor to try to charge their devices, because then we're going to have students tripping and hurting themselves. Students are very responsible for charging their device so it's able to be used in class. Now, damages, we had some very long discussions, especially over the last 2 years, about this as we were writing our tech plan with Tech Plan Committee. I spoke with teachers, I spoke with parents, I spoke with students, I spoke with the Board of Ed. And we didn't want to make this a burden for people, for parents or students. We chose the Chromebooks. This was our idea as a district. We thought it was the right thing to do. Other districts make a mandatory insurance fee or a deposit. We decided not to do that. Well, again, we don't want to burden families. We understand that some people are struggling financially. We're not charging an insurance fee. That is not part of our program. And we understand the students are having these devices for 180 school days. Again, for the high school, they're going back and forth. There's a potential for things to go wrong, parts to get broken, kids accidentally drop them. As much as we want kids to take care of them, we're giving a first repair for free. The district's going to do that because we think it's the right thing to do. However, and most of our experience has been when a student breaks it, it really is just once. It's a very small group of students that they break it a second time, they break it a third time, they break it a fourth time. And at that point, yes, we are going to bill the family, we're going to charge the student, and you'll see a bill go home. This is very similar to our textbook policy. So if you look in our high school student handbook, and read the textbook policy, a lot of that is the same language as what we're going to be using for Chromebooks. Unpaid bills at the close of school, we'll be shutting down report cards. There's a chance the student may not graduate on time. We're going to be taking this very seriously. Most of the parts are not terribly expensive. And again, we're giving the first repair for free, so we're hoping that it's not going to be an expense that parents are going to feel or students will feel, only if they really start to abuse the program. And lastly, we're putting a lot of onus and accountability on the students that if it is broken, if they broke it, they need, it's their responsibility to get it repaired. So they need to make an appointment with IT. We have a presence in the building. We also have one of the assistants in the building that will be helping if IT is not here. To be able to make an appointment and get the device repaired or get a spare device if theirs is unusable. Again, we don't think this will be a huge problem, but students need to realize that in the real world, if my car breaks down and I have to take it to a garage, I have to do that during my time, and I have to sit at the garage and wait. And it's another part of adulting. Now, this is a big one. This is a concern as the devices start to leave our four walls, or even truly when they're here, when there's 1,000 devices in one building. So when we talk about devices being lost or stolen, lost is certainly one thing. So we have a system in place where the students can immediately report it to one of the assistants in the building. That's Mrs. Valdez. She's in room 236B. She had this role last year, was very effective at it. And so if a student reports a device lost to them, very quickly we will email the rest of the staff and say, hey, can you look in your rooms? Can you look for this student's device? Can you look in some of the Chrome carts? And everyone can start to look around and be on the lookout for a lost device. And definitely let me say that the sooner a device is reported missing, the sooner or more likely it is that we will recover it. If a student waits 2 or 3 weeks, by that point it may be very difficult to recover. Whereas if they tell us the same day or next day, if the device is powered, there's a way that we can try to use the access points in our building to try to locate that device. Or we also have a geolocation software, so again, in case the device is reported lost or stolen, we can try to find it potentially outside the four walls of the building. Now, with that said, stolen devices is another creature. So if things escalate worse than that, we will involve the Vernon Township Police Department as we have in the past. We have an SRO officer in the building. And so we'll open a report with them so we know, listen, we think a device has been stolen. Maybe a parent's car was broken into and the device happened to be in there. Maybe the student had it on the bus and now it went missing. They lost it, or they are worried some other student took it. So at that point, we'll notify the police department, and we have software that will try to start finding the geolocation of that. In the past, there's been school districts that have turned on the webcam to be able to see who the thief is. That is the only time, the only instance we would ever even think about that. And again, we would only turn on a theft detection if we had an open police report with the police department. Otherwise, we would never use that. There's laws against that. A stolen device is really an escalated issue. We would involve the police department and take those kind of next steps. If it's just reported lost, we would take some more internal steps and try to talk to staff members and use some of our other resources. But a stolen device, we'll definitely take it to a next level, just so everyone understands that. We have some rules of the road. I shared this briefly with the high school students. Most of this more is going to apply to middle schools and also Lounsbury. So that's Glen Meadow and Lounsbury. But the first rule here I definitely want to share with the students is that use of the device is always up to the teachers. The teachers know what their instructional lesson is for that day. They know whether they're going to use Chromebooks or not use Chromebooks. And so we wanted to make sure it was very clear that just because we gave them these Chromebooks, that doesn't mean that they get carte blanche to use them whenever they want. If a teacher says put them away, they're meant to be put away. If the teacher says to get them out, they're meant to be used. And last but not least, inside our four walls, we need to be CIPA compliant. That is the Children's Internet Protection Act. And also, if the Chromebooks leave our four walls, if they go home, we also must remain CIPA compliant. So we have chosen a software called GoGuardian that filters adult content out, so hopefully students cannot access it. It tracks all of their usage, so it tracks the Google Docs they've used, the Google searches they've done, the YouTube videos they may have watched. It tracks all of that. Some of the keywords we will sometimes get flagged would be things like if a student starts looking up suicide, we're going to get emails on that and we're going to get notifications on that. So we might, involve the counselor and say, hey, listen, we saw that there were these searches. It's concerning. And counselor might call the parents and say, listen, let's have a conversation. So in extreme cases, we sift through the Google searches for things that are troublesome. And again, we try to do our part as a school district to filter the students to keep them safe. Again, both here at school, but also at home. With that said, let me say that when these devices go home, we need your help. We need you, the parents' help. We're going to try to do our part to use our filtering to keep the kids safe and keep them on task and doing educational things. But I worry and I warn parents that if you just let a child in their bedroom alone for 5 hours on the internet, eventually they're going to probably get to something they probably shouldn't be on. It's a bad practice. I'm not a big fan of it. So when you have those conversations with your children, when you talk about managing your household and when should they use internet, when should they not, where should they use it, that's a good conversation to have. That's help that we need in the school district from you, the parent, and guardians. We're trying to keep the children safe. We need your help to do that as well. So if you have questions on that, you can reach out to me. But again, we have this software that we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to keep kids safe and protect them. All of the faculty and administration have access to this, and we'll see, if something goes wrong. Me as the tech director, I'm the one that gets alerts if there's what's called a severity alert. If there's a student that's looking at something that we really need to intervene and take a look at, which doesn't happen so often, thankfully. So, but just to make parents aware, we're trying to do as much as we can to keep the kids safe. Now, if you have questions, please by all means reach out. It's, this is an extremely busy time of year, the first couple days of school, but normally I'm very accessible. So if you want to reach me, normally my email is the best way to go. That's mshea@vtsd.com. You can try my landline, 973-764-4272, but it is hard for me to catch up to voicemails, especially this time of year. So normally you're better off trying my email. But I'm glad to answer any questions you have. We appreciate you partnering with us in this. We're very excited to offer this opportunity that not every school district in Sussex County is offering, and we think it's just a great learning opportunity for our students.
So that's our one-to-one program. We're really excited to be able to offer these learning opportunities for our students here at Vernon, all the way down to 4th grade, and even K through 3 will see Chromebooks. We just don't have one for every student. So our students, are constantly getting opportunities to learn with technology here at Vernon. So if you have questions, feel free to email me, mshea@vtsd.com, to ask any questions you might have about the program. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing what your kids can do this year with technology. Thanks for watching.